What's good, everybody? It's Robo back with another video, and today I've got my final NFL mock draft heading into the real thing Thursday night. I'm just going to go in depth over the first round, but I did go 7 rounds deep, so I'm going to put graphics at the end of every team's picks, and we'll leave timestamps if you want to just skip to that. I pretty much based the mock on team needs as well as my personal and consensus positional rankings, and not so much looking into visits or interviews. For some teams, I may have undervalued a need, but I just didn't like what was available to position at that time, so I went with who I would take in their shoes instead. But for the most part, I think pretty much every team filled in a lot of key holes in the depth chart, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the first round picks. With the first overall pick, I've got the Chicago Bears taking Caleb Williams. The Fields trade was the clear sign that this is the direction they were headed, and I think it was the right decision, getting the better quarterback prospect at a lesser cost. Caleb has an extremely rare combination of elite arm talent and top-tier playmaking ability, which is why he's so often labeled as a generational prospect. So Thursday night, Caleb will finally be able to officially call Chicago home, and we can start to see if he can live up to those expectations.
Williams, deep shot, receiving, it's caught. It's a keeper. Williams running for his life, fires to the end zone, jump ball, touchdown.
With the second pick, I think the Washington Commanders select Jaden Daniels. This is really a toss-up between May and Daniels right now for who the Commanders want. I think the McCarthy talk is a little bit of smokescreen or just some due diligence stuff. With Daniels, you're getting the reigning Heisman winner who's an absolute playmaker with the football. He struggled to stand in the pocket and deliver under pressure, but the escapability is such an elite tool that he can make the Commanders' offense a really dynamic group.
Daniels, he's going to take a shot. Kyron Lacey.
I don't know which quarterback the Patriots prefer, but with the third pick, they'll be defaulted into whoever's left of May, Daniels, and McCarthy, and I think they'll take Drake May. A trade down is possible, but I think they need to really like a quarterback or be fine with a bridge year to do it and grab more assets. May could be a bit of a project, but the arm talent is a weapon, and he was pretty solid throwing from a collapsed pocket at times. It could be a franchise guy for the future in New England.
That time they caught the defense off guard. May floating. He's going to heave one for the front right pile.
The Arizona Cardinals are in a great spot with pick 4, likely either getting the best non-quarterback in the draft or being able to move out for a huge haul. But to me, I think passing on pairing Marvin Harrison Jr. with Kyler Murray would be the wrong move, and I think they stand pat and make it happen. The size, speed, and ball tracking combination Marvin possesses is special, and he could be one of the best receivers in the league from day one.
Throws it deep. McCord caught at the 40-yard line. Maserati Marv.
I've got the Minnesota Vikings trading up to pick 5 as the first trade of the draft. Neighbors and Odunze are incredible prospects, but the Chargers have stressed the importance of the run game and could definitely use extra draft capital to help Harbaugh rebuild his way. I think the Vikings package both 11 and 23 to make it happen and select J.J. McCarthy to lock in their QB of the future. McCarthy's the type of prospect you either love or hate. I think he has all the tools to be successful in the NFL with a really strong arm, super high IQ, and incredible amount of leadership skills. The question is his production at Michigan for sure, but by the day that seems less and less of a concern to scouts, and I don't see Darnold being the guy for too long in Minnesota.
And Edwards, who can throw it, lobs it back to McCarthy, who has to retreat to make a one-handed grab. And he dodges some pressure, escapes, and J.J. McCarthy is still running.
Pick 6 belongs to the New York Giants, who really have several needs to attend to and could be in play for JJ with a trade-up or if the Chargers grab a receiver. But in this scenario, I think they give Danny another year and decide on Malik Neighbors here. Neighbors without a doubt a top 3 receiver in this class, and most often the second one off the board. And I think in the past, Danny's had very little help around him, so giving him an elite receiving weapon for one last evaluation year could be the right move for the Giants' future.
Deep sideline. Oh, what a catch by Neighbors, but was he in?
On the wheel around the field is a completed catch.
No,
First down.
he's not going to get. He did.
The Titans are up next with number 7, and with the addition of Calvin Ridley and a glaring need at tackle, I don't see them taking Rome Odunze here. Joe Alt will most likely be the pick, and it would be a really strong one in my mind. I think he's become the clear best tackle in a loaded draft at the position. He's an elite pass and run blocker with a frame near 6'9" and 320 pounds, and finished the number 1 graded tackle in the country, and he would be able to give Will Levis and their offense a ton of support for the future. The Atlanta Falcons made some big moves this offseason on the offensive side of the ball, so in this draft, I think they take Alabama edge rusher Dallas Turner with pick 8. In my opinion, he's the best defender in the draft and at a position of need. They could definitely move down from this pick if the board shakes out a bit differently, but I don't think Turner makes it much further if they do, so they should just take him here with pick 8.
Jefferson to the air. Gets hit.
The Chicago Bears are back up with pick 9 and really have a home run scenario here, being able to pair Caleb up with Rome Odunze alongside Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and Saquon Barkley in that offense. There's not much they could do wrong here going defense or offensive line, but Odunze has a chance to be a legitimately elite wide receiver 1 in this league, And with Keenan being an older guy who can help develop Rome, it could work perfectly for the upcoming future for them.
Gotta hurry. This gets it off from the pocket. Zips it to the end zone. Caught. Touchdown. Rome Odunze.
The Jets could go a number of ways with this 10th overall pick, but with how the offseason shaped out, I really like the idea of Brock Bowers in this offense for Aaron Rodgers, giving him another elite receiving weapon along with Garrett Wilson and Mike Williams, who will make that offense much stronger as a whole, especially considering they beefed up in the trenches on both sides of the ball in free agency, getting rid of several needs in the process. I don't see why going for a playmaker here wouldn't be a great idea.
Down the middle. Guess who? Brock Bowers. Bowers heading to the end zone.
The Chargers are on the clock here at pick 11 after the trade down, and I really love both tackle options still on the board here between Olu and Fuaga, but Fuaga's the better run blocker of the two and fits the Chargers' game plan better in my opinion, so I think he's a great fit here for them, and they can address the receiving room later on in this round or further into the draft as well. The Broncos are in the QB market this draft, and with less assets to give out, I don't know if they'll be willing to move up in the top 5. And in this scenario, I can't see them taking the 5th guy this early, so I think they look to move down, and a team like the Rams have the capital. I think pick 19 and 52 can get it done for the second trade of the draft, so then the Rams can take Jared Verse out of Florida State. I don't think he'll be there at 19 for them, so this makes sense to grab one of the best defensive players in the entire draft. Verse is a top 3 edge in this class, and some have him going to the Falcons at 8, so he would no doubt be a big addition to a defensive line unit that just lost Aaron Donald this offseason. The Raiders are on the clock next with number 13. Michael Penix and Bo Nix could be in play here, but I think it's a bit early, especially with who's still on the board. And the Raiders should look to address another need by grabbing Olu Fashanu out of Penn State here at 13. Fashanu is a guy I can see going high as 7 or 9, but could be a huge help to the offense of the future for the Raiders regardless of who's at quarterback, and they can look to grab one with a trade up later on. The Saints need help on both sides of the trenches in this draft, but I think the first round tackles keep coming, and the Saints grab Alabama's J.C. Latham here with pick 14. He's a huge tackle at 6'6", 340, and is seen as one of the higher upside guys in this class. And with how often the Saints struggled on offense this year, I think giving Derek Carr a stronger support system would be the right thing to do, and Latham has a much higher chance to be a star than some guys in the later rounds.
The offensive line, the big fullback gets in there, but now it's a one-on-one play in space.
The 15th pick of the draft belongs to the Indianapolis Colts, and I think Terrion Arnold would be a great fit at a position of need for the Colts. Terrion's my cornerback 1 of this class. He's a big-time talent who brings a lot of physicality and technique to help him shut down receivers every week, but he's also an incredible leader with a strong character who could help strengthen the entire unit in Indianapolis and become a fan favorite right away.
Steps up in the pocket, looking long toward the middle of the field, and it's intercepted!
Up next is the Seattle Seahawks, and offensive line or edge are the 2 biggest needs, but I would love it if they took Washington offensive lineman Troy Fautanu. He can play at either tackle or guard in the NFL, and will get to stay in Washington with the Seahawks. I think Fautanu could be a major asset in the run game, which is huge importance with talents like Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet in that backfield. And he's more than capable in the pass game as well to provide Geno more time to get the ball to DK, Lockett, and JSN next season, and maybe even beyond next season. Jacksonville holds the 17th pick of the first round, and with that pick, they could take either a receiver or a corner, and Quinion Mitchell is the top guy available at both spots for me. He's a shutdown guy who lit up the combine running in the low 4.3s, and with how deep the receiver position is this year, I think going corner first would be the right decision, as they can add a weapon for Lawrence later on after taking my top player available here in round 1.
Good fits.
Hampton rolling out, he's picked off. That's going to go for a pick 6.
The Cincinnati Bengals have a couple different directions they could go with the 18th pick, including both defensive tackle and offensive tackle, but I think the free agency pickups kind of hint towards defense here, so I have them taking Byron Murphy. Murphy's an absolute monster at 300 pounds and managed a 4'8", 740 and a 33-inch vertical. Unreal athleticism for the interior defensive line, and he was nearly unblockable paired with Tavondre Sweat at Texas this past season.
3rd down and 8 against one of the best 3rd down defenses in the country, and there you...
After the Rams trade up, the Broncos are picking here at 19, and I think this is where they grab their guy at quarterback. And I think they seem to prefer Oregon's Bo Nix over Michael Penix at this point. And taking him at 19 after adding an asset makes much more sense to me than going elsewhere and then spending one to move up later in the first. Nix is an older prospect with a bit lower ceiling than some other guys, but his accuracy is an elite tool and he can really move out of the pocket. So hopefully the Broncos can draft well around him and put him in a nice spot to work with Sean Payton.
Now he's got time to throw. Across his body, it dangles in the air to Franklin. Touchdown!
The Pittsburgh Steelers are most likely addressing the offensive line here, and Oregon center Jackson Powers Johnson should be the pick to me. They have serious interior offensive line needs and shouldn't pass up on JPJ if he's on the board. He's a consensus best interior lineman prospect in the class and can start immediately at center. He's a strong athlete and dominant blocker and will be a huge addition for the Steelers offense. The Dolphins are up with pick 21, and I think they end up taking Georgia's Amarius Mims. I could really see Johnny Newton here instead, as he's just as good of a prospect as Byron Murphy in my opinion, who went a couple picks earlier, but the Dolphins could use a high-ceiling offensive tackle of the future. Mims has a massive frame at 6'8", 340, and a ton of strength that can help him become a great tackle. And along with that strength, he's got a lot of athleticism that can help him block faster rushes off the edge and keep Tua clean in the future. The Eagles have the 22nd pick and a few needs to address, but I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are ready to move off an asset to grab a guy they would be ecstatic to move up for. So after giving up pick 26 and a future second or third rounder, I think they select Laiatu Latu out of UCLA. Latu is my number 2 edge in this class, but I could see a slight slip because of his prior medical history, but I don't see him lasting all the way to 26, which is why a team like the Bucs should be more than willing to move up a few spots to grab him. The Eagles could also take Latu here, but I think the secondary is a bigger need with several guys worth taking still on the board, so adding the extra asset to move down only 4 spots makes a lot of sense to me.
25, Latu.
Again, the Chargers were on the clock after the trade down with the Vikings earlier, and with pick number 23, I think Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU is a no-brainer here. The Chargers need a guy badly in the receiver room, and Thomas had a monster combine after a breakout season at LSU. Thomas has established himself as the 4th receiver of this class, and really not that far off from the top 3, and his speed and size can be an incredible asset for Justin Herbert moving forward.
Here comes a blitz. Daniels has a one-on-one in the back of the end zone, climbing the ladder.
The Dallas Cowboys have a few holes to address this offseason, starting with the offensive line. Tyron Smith left, and they've got more holes across the line, so getting a guy with a ton of versatility could be really smart for them, and Graham Barton provides exactly that. He started at a few different spots during his time at Duke, so the Cowboys will be able to take their pick with wherever they see him fitting best. Whether it's tackle, guard, or even center, he has the ability to make an impact right away for an offense that really needs some help if they want to take the next step in the playoffs soon. The Packers are picking 25th, and although their secondary is in need, so is some offensive line help, and I think getting a real offensive tackle of the future is just as important, and Tyler Guyton can provide that for them here. He's a high upside guy who has the physical tools to produce right away. I do think Cooper DeJean is in play here, but I think the Packers opt for Guyton in this pick. After the trade back, the Eagles are up at 26, and in this scenario, they'll get their choice of a few DBs, but I think Iowa's Cooper DeJean is the best of the bunch here. DeJean could end up being the best DB in this draft and could slot into a starting role at corner or safety right away, but I do think he's got what it takes to be a strong NFL corner, and he's a big-time playmaker when the ball comes his way on both defense and special teams.
On the sideline, goodbye. Until now, little spin down the sideline, got some space. Here he comes. Cooper DeJean cuts it back. 25, he's got a chance. He scores.
The Arizona Cardinals hold pick 27 from the Houston Texans trade up last season, and I think they should take Clemson corner Nate Wiggins here. He's got blazing speed that he showcased at the Combine before injuring his groin, and he has a lot of fans in NFL scouting departments as he doesn't take plays off and has made a few incredible chase down strip tackles for Clemson in the last 2 years, and he could really help the Cardinals defense with versatility on the outside.
They set to go. To the sideline, is it picked?
The Bills hold the 28th pick in the draft, and there's quite a few holes in the roster, but they've got a ton of picks. So taking a receiver like Adonai Mitchell makes a ton of sense. He had a big combine running in the low 4.3s. I think he'd fit in well in Buffalo with Josh Allen. There are some questions with giving up on routes early, but his tape at both Georgia and Texas is pretty amazing, and he's got incredible tools and size that can help him replace Stephon Diggs next season.
Lewis from the pocket, launching downfield. Mitchell.
With pick 29, the Detroit Lions don't have many starter needs at this point, but could use either another receiver or a corner. They did add a few guys to the room, but getting a young guy with shutdown potential could be a great move in my mind. And Kool-Aid McKinstry would be a great pick to add more depth and potential into that room. If McKinstry hits like a lot of people expect, he could become the number 1 corner of the future in Detroit, and regardless should still add a lot to a defense that's seen some big improvements throughout this offseason.
On the fade route, no false starts by Tennessee against Georgia.
Pick 30 belongs to the Baltimore Ravens, but I think they look to move down as they've got several needs they can attend to in this draft, and the Raiders use picks 44 and 77 to get back into round 1 to grab Michael Penix Jr. Age and injury concerns are why he could fall in this draft, but the tape shows a first-round talent to me, and the Raiders probably won't be able to take him as low as 44, so they make the right call and move up here to get the 5th-year option on his contract and take a quarterback of the future.
And the throw's right on target. Jalen run the play clock down a lot. In the end zone, touchdown.
The 49ers hold the 31st pick of the first round and likely add to the offensive line unit, and they've got a lot of options, but I become a pretty big fan of West Virginia's Zach Frazier here, and I think they have too. He's easily the second best true interior offensive lineman in this class, Third if you count Barton, but definitely good enough to warrant a first-round selection, especially on a team like the 49ers. He instantly helps out that unit and has some flexibility on where he can play on the interior, which could be huge for the upside of a Super Bowl contending offense ready to try for it again. The last pick of the first round belongs to the Chiefs, and I like them to grab Texas receiver Xavier Worthy here. They did already add a weapon in Hollywood Brown this offseason, but the pending Rashee Rice situation as well as a lack of depth in the receiving room still points towards a receiver being the pick here. This draft is deep enough for it to come in round 2 if they select another need, but Worthy would be a really fun addition in my opinion, bringing back some of that Tyreek Hill speed to Kansas City. He broke the combine record with a 4.21 40-yard dash and was a big-time playmaking receiver and kick returner for Texas. He's pretty slim, but his prototypes had success in the league, and his route running ability is definitely good enough to stick around in my opinion.
Carries, quick toss, and Xavier Worthy! Worthy is still out! The burner! The sideline!
Here's all 7 rounds as a whole, going in alphabetical order for each team. I didn't make any trades beyond the first round moves, as that's pretty overkill for a mock, I think. Again, as I said, I may have missed some needs, but I just didn't love who was available at the position at times throughout the draft, so I went with the best player available at any position of need for the picks. Obviously, I don't expect much of this to be accurate whatsoever. This is just what I would do for each team and what rounds I have guys going across the board. If there's anybody I'm missing you think should be drafted, let me know in the comments as always. That's it for my final mock of the year. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, as well as who you want to see your team take first on Thursday or Friday night. This is a really strong draft class in my opinion, and I'm really excited to see what my Lions do on Thursday night as they're hosting the draft. With that said, thanks for watching as always. Feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.